Commander Do-hyun Park stood at the observation window of Station Sejong, watching the blue and green planet below. New Busan looked peaceful from orbit. The mining colony had been his home for 3 years now, and he had grown to love the quiet rhythm of frontier life. Behind him, the control room hummed with the soft sounds of computers and distant conversations. "Coffee, Commander?" Lieutenant Ji-won Han appeared at his side, holding 2 steaming cups. She was young, only 26, but already one of his best security officers. Her dark eyes reflected the planet below. Do-hyun accepted the cup with a grateful smile. "Thank you, Ji-won. How are the morning reports?" "All quiet, sir. The mining teams are already on the surface. Engineer Tae-jun says the excavation equipment is running perfectly." She paused, sipping her coffee. "It's a good day. It was a good day." Station Sejong housed 300 people. Miners, scientists, engineers, and their families. They were far from Earth, out on the edge of known space, but they had built something peaceful here, something worth protecting. Dr. Mina Choi rushed into the control room, her tablet clutched against her chest. Her face was flushed with excitement. "Commander, you need to see this." Do-hyun turned from the window. Mina was his chief xenobiologist, and in 3 years, he had never seen her this animated. "What is it, Doctor?" "We've got first contact," Mina said breathlessly. "A ship just appeared at the edge of our sensor range. They're broadcasting a greeting in multiple wavelengths." "Commander, they're trying to communicate with us." The control room fell silent. Every officer turned to look at them. First contact was rare, even in 2847. Humanity had met 17 alien species in their expansion into space. Some became trading partners. Others kept their distance. But each new species was a momentous occasion. "Show me," Do-hyun said calmly, though his heart beat faster. Mina pulled up the data on the main screen. The alien ship was unlike anything in their databases. It seemed to be made of crystal, reflecting light in strange patterns. The vessel pulsed with colors that shifted from blue to purple to green. "They call themselves the Vrelith," Mina explained. "They're crystalline-based life forms. Look at their communication method. They use light patterns instead of sound. It's beautiful." Do-hyun studied the ship carefully. It was smaller than Station Sejong, but there was something elegant about it. "Have you responded?" "Not yet, sir. I wanted your authorization first. Send a standard greeting. Let them know we come in peace." Do-hyun felt the weight of the moment. This could be the beginning of a new friendship between species. Humanity had learned to be cautious but welcoming. The galaxy was big enough for everyone. Over the next few hours, a dialogue began. The Vrelith were curious about the humans and their mining operations. Dr. Mina led the communications team, translating the light patterns into words. The aliens seemed friendly, asking questions about Earth and human culture. Engineer Tae-jun Kang joined them in the control room. He was a big man with calloused hands and a warm smile. "Commander, permission to speak?" "Of course, Tae-jun. I've been analyzing their ship with our sensors. Their technology is impressive. That crystal structure isn't just for show, it's incredibly efficient. If we could learn from them, it might improve our mining operations." Do-hyun nodded thoughtfully. This was what humanity did best. They learned from others and shared their own knowledge. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we establish trust. Lieutenant Ji-won stood at her security station, monitoring the situation. Something bothered her, though she couldn't explain what. The Vrelith ship maintained a respectful distance, but there was something in their patterns of movement that seemed off. Too calculated. Perhaps too careful. "Commander," she said quietly, "I recommend we keep our defensive systems online. I recommend we have with me." Do-hyun looked at her. Ji-won had good instincts. "Agreed. But let's not appear hostile. Standard alert level. Nothing more." Days passed. The Vrelith sent more ships, 3, then 5, then 10. They claimed to be a diplomatic convoy, interested in establishing formal relations. Dr. Mina was thrilled. She spent hours learning their language of light, recording everything for Earth's xenological archives. Administrator Yuna Song managed the civilian side of the station. She was a practical woman, with 2 young children, Hanul and Bora. She came to Do-hyun with concerns. "Commander, some of the families are nervous. That's a lot of alien ships out there." "Ram, I understand, Yuna. But we can't let fear guide us. Humanity's strength is our ability to make friends, not enemies." Yuna nodded, but she didn't look convinced. "My children ask me every night if the pretty crystal ships are friendly. I tell them yes. But..." She trailed off. "But you're not sure," Do-hyun finished. "None of us are. That's why we're careful." Medical Officer Junho Lee prepared the medical bay for a possible face-to-face meeting. The Vrelith had expressed interest in seeing the station. Junho was a quiet man who had saved many lives over the years. He believed in the goodness of intelligent beings. "If they're crystalline, their biology will be fascinating," he told Mina. "Imagine what we could learn from each other." Ensign Heiji Nam worked the communications station 16 hours a day, helping translate the increasingly complex exchanges with the Vrelith. She was fresh out of the academy, full of idealism about humanity's place in the stars. "They're asking about our defensive capabilities," she reported to Do-hyun one evening. "Should I tell them?" Do-hyun considered. Standard protocol was, to be honest but vague. "Tell them we have standard defensive systems, appropriate for a frontier station." Nothing more specific. What Do-hyun and his crew didn't know was that the Vrelith had no interest in friendship. Their crystalline bodies allowed them to survive in the vacuum of space, making them perfect raiders. They had destroyed 6 other species over the centuries, harvesting their technology and resources. They saw other life forms as things to be used, not equals to befriend. The Vrelith commanders studied Station Sejong carefully. They counted the defensive weapons, mapped the station's layout, and identified weak points. The humans seemed soft, trusting. This would be easy. On the 14th day of contact, long-range sensors detected an anomaly. A surge of energy at the edge of the system, gone almost as soon as it appeared. The computer flagged it as possible cosmic radiation. Lieutenant Ji-won studied the reading. Something felt wrong. "Commander, I'd like to go to full alert." "Based on what, Lieutenant?" "Instinct, sir." Do-hyun wanted to trust her instinct. But he also knew that fear could poison first contact. If they went to full alert, the Vrelith might see it as an act of aggression. "Let's compromise. Increase monitoring. Have all security teams ready. But don't activate battle stations." Ji-won nodded, unhappy but obedient. That night, Do-hyun couldn't sleep. He walked through the station's corridors, watching families in their quarters. Children laughed. Couples shared meals. Engineers played cards in the recreation room. This was what humanity had built out here in the dark. A small piece of home among the stars. He found Taejun in the engineering bay, working late as usual. "Too much on my mind," Do-hyun admitted. "My wife sent me a message from Earth today," Taejun said, showing him a photo on his tablet. A woman with a bright smile held a baby. "Our daughter. Born 3 weeks ago. I haven't met her yet." Do-hyun felt the ache in his friend's voice. "You'll get home soon. Your rotation ends in 4 months. 4 months, Taejun repeated. He looked out the viewport at the Vrelith ships, now numbering 15. Their crystal surfaces caught the light of the distant sun. "Do you trust them, Commander?" Do-hyun wanted to say yes. He wanted to believe in the goodness of the universe. "I trust that we're prepared for whatever comes." It wasn't much of an answer, but it was honest. The Vrelith attack would come in less than 12 hours. But for now, Station Sejong slept peacefully, unaware that their quiet frontier days were about to end in blood and fire. The alarm screamed through Station Sejong at 0600 hours. Commander Do-hyun was already running toward the control room before he was fully awake. His heart pounded as he burst through the doors. "Report!" he shouted over the wailing sirens. Lieutenant Jiwan's face was white. "Commander, 40 Vrelith warships just appeared. They came out of faster-than-light travel right on top of us." Do-hyun stared at the tactical display in horror. The Vrelith ships surrounded the station in a perfect sphere. They were trapped. "Open a channel." "Now." Ensign Heiji's hands shook as she worked the communications panel. "Channel open, sir." This is Commander Do-hyun Park of Station Sejong. We are a civilian research and mining facility. We mean you no harm. Please respond." The Vrelith response came immediately, but not through words. Purple energy beams lanced out from 20 ships at once. They struck the station's shields with devastating force. The entire structure shook violently. "Shields down to 60%, an officer screamed. "Return fire. All defensive batteries." Do-hyun grabbed the edge of his console as another wave of impacts rocked the station. This couldn't be happening. They had talked with these beings for 2 weeks. They had shared information, discussed culture, started building a friendship. But the Vrelith had been studying them, finding their weaknesses. Station Sejong's defensive weapons opened up, but they were designed to ward off pirates, not a military fleet. The bolts of energy splashed harmlessly against the Vrelith shields. The alien ships didn't even slow down. Shields at 30%. "Evacuate all civilians to the core," Do-hyun ordered. "Get them to the reinforced sections." Throughout the station, people ran for their lives. Parents grabbed children. Scientists abandoned their labs. Miners, still on the surface, looked up in horror as massive Vrelith ships descended toward the planet. Administrator Yuna Song ran through the residential section, banging on doors. "Everyone out! Move to the core shelters! Now!" Her children, Hanul and Bora, clung to her hands. 8-year-old Hanul was crying. 6-year-old Bora seemed frozen in shock. Yuna pulled them along, her mind racing. The core shelters were reinforced, built to survive almost anything. If they could just reach them. "Mama, I'm scared," Hanel sobbed. "I know, baby. Just run. Don't stop running." The station shuddered again. Lights flickered and died. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. Dr. Mina Choi was in her lab when the attack began. She had been studying Vrelith light patterns, trying to understand their culture better. Now she understood. The patterns had been lies. Every word had been a lie. Her research team huddled around her 4 young scientists who had come out here to learn about the universe. "We need to go," she told them. "Leave everything." They ran for the corridors, but the station shook so violently that they fell. Mina pulled herself up, helping the others. Behind them, her lab exploded. As a Vrelith weapon punched through the hull, the vacuum tried to suck them out, but emergency bulkheads slammed shut just in time. In the control room, the situation grew desperate. "Shields failing," Jiwan reported. "They're concentrating fire on the docking bays." The shields collapsed entirely. Vrelith ships moved in closer. Then something appeared on the hull. Alien soldiers, walking along the outside of the station, as if gravity meant nothing to them. "They're boarding us," Do-hyun said quietly. He reached for the station-wide intercom. "All security personnel, repel boarders. All civilians, seal yourselves in whatever rooms you can find. Do not engage the enemy." He looked at Jiwan. The young lieutenant had drawn her weapon. "Get as many people out as you can," he told her. "Use the escape pods. Get them to the planet's surface." "Sir, I should stay with you." "That's an order, Lieutenant." Jiwan saluted, tears streaming down her face, and ran from the control room. The Vrelith didn't cut through the hull. They simply walked through it. Their crystalline bodies could phase through solid matter using some technology humanity had never seen. They appeared inside corridors, in living quarters, in the engineering sections, and they killed everything they found. Engineer Taejun was in the docking bay, trying to get civilian transport ships ready for launch. Families poured in, dozens of terrified people, pushing toward the ships. "Orderly! Stay orderly!" he shouted. But panic made people push and shove. A Vrelith warrior materialized in the middle of the crowd. It stood 8 feet tall, its crystalline body refracting light into 1,000 colors. Beautiful and terrible. The alien raised an arm, and purple energy burst forth. People screamed and died. Taejun threw himself between the Vrelith and a group of children. The children ran. The Vrelith's next blast caught Taejun in the chest. He fell, thinking of his wife on Earth, of his baby daughter he would never meet. At least some of the children had gotten away. At least he had done that much. Medical Officer Junho tried to save the wounded in the medical bay. His staff worked frantically, treating people as fast as they were carried in. Burns, broken bones, decompression, injuries. So many injuries. "Doctor, we need more plasma." "Use what we have. Prioritize the critical cases." The doors exploded inward. 3 Vrelith warriors entered the medical bay. Junho stepped forward, raising his hands. "We are medical personnel. These people are wounded. Under Galactic Convention." The Vrelith didn't care about conventions. They fired into the crowded room. Patients died in their beds. Nurses fell trying to protect the people they were treating. Junho felt the blast hit him, felt his body failing, and used his last strength to fall across a child's bed, shielding her with his body. The child survived for another 10 minutes before a second group of Vrelith found her. Dr. Mina and her team made it to an emergency shelter. They sealed the heavy door behind them. The small room had air recyclers and supplies for a week. "We're safe," one of her scientists gasped. "We made it. We made it." But the Vrelith could walk through walls. They appeared inside the shelter, materializing from solid metal. Mina saw them and knew they were all about to die. "Please," she said. "We're scientists. We just want to learn. We never hurt anyone." The Vrelith killed them all without responding. Lieutenant Ji-won led a group of 30 civilians through the service corridors. They were heading for a section of escape pods that might still be functional. Security officers fought desperate battles behind them, buying time with their lives. "Keep moving," Ji-won urged. An elderly couple struggled to keep up. A man carried his unconscious wife. Children sobbed as they ran. These were her people, her friends. She had played cards with some of them, eaten meals with others. They reached the escape pods. "Get in. 4 to a pod. Launch as soon as you're sealed." Ji-won helped them, counting heads, making sure no one was left behind. "Lieutenant, you need to come too," someone shouted. "I have to go back." "There are more people." Ji-won sealed the last pod and hit the emergency launch. The pods blasted away from the station, rocketing toward the planet below. Some would make it. Maybe. She ran back into the station, her weapon ready. Administrator Yuna reached the core shelters with her children and 100 other civilians. The massive doors were designed to withstand anything. "Everyone inside. Quickly." She got Hainwell and Bora through the door. Turned to help others. An old man stumbled, and she caught him. A woman carried an infant. So many people needing help. The Vrelith appeared at the end of the corridor. A dozen of them, moving with terrible purpose. Yuna made a decision. She pushed Hanul and Bora toward a supply cache in the wall. "Hide in there. Stay quiet no matter what you hear. Don't come out until someone from Earth comes for you." "Mama!" Hanul grabbed for her. "I love you both. So much. Now hide." Yuna shoved them into the cache and sealed it from the outside. The cache was small, easily overlooked. Maybe the aliens wouldn't find it. She turned to help more people into the shelter. The Vrelith opened fire. Yuna felt the blast hit her, felt herself falling. Her last thought was hope that her children would be smart enough to stay hidden. The Vrelith slaughtered everyone at the shelter entrance, then moved inside. In the control room, Commander Do-hyun fought alongside his remaining officers. They had barricaded the doors, but it wouldn't matter. The Vrelith would just walk through. "Sir, escape pods are launching from the planet," an officer reported. "The mining colony is trying to evacuate." Through the viewports, Do-hyun saw Vrelith warships descending. They fired massive beams of purple energy at the planet's surface. Where the beams hit, the ground turned to glass. They were destroying everything, leaving no survivors. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." Ensign Heiji was badly wounded, bleeding from a dozen cuts, but she crawled to the communications console. Her fingers moved across the controls. "Commander," she gasped. "Black box. Uploading. All tactical data. Everything." "Good," Do-hyun said. "Get it to Earth. Let them know what happened here." Heiji worked furiously. She uploaded the station logs, the video recordings, everything that showed the Vrelith's unprovoked attack. She broadcast it all on a priority channel that would eventually reach Earth. "Done," she breathed. Then she slumped over the console. Gone. The Vrelith phased through the walls. Commander Do-hyun fired his weapon until it ran dry. Then they killed him too. Station Sejong went dark. On the planet below, the mining colony of New Busan burned. 300 people were dead. The Vrelith ships gathered the wreckage they wanted and prepared to leave. In the supply cache, 2 children huddled together in the darkness, too terrified to cry. The distress signal from Station Sejong took 3 weeks to reach Earth. It arrived in the middle of the night, Earth Standard Time. At the headquarters of the Earth Defense Force, Fleet Admiral Kyungmin Baek was pulled from her bed at 0300 hours. She arrived at command in her uniform, her gray hair pulled back tight, her face like stone. Officers stood as she entered the operations center. "Show me," she said simply. They played the transmission. Ensign Heiji's dying message. The black box data. Video footage of Vrelith warriors slaughtering civilians. The mining colony burning. 300 voices silenced forever. Kyungmin watched it all without expression. When it ended, she said, "Get me the president. Get me Strategic Weapons Command. And somebody find out where these Vrelith came from." Within an hour, President Eun Ji-shin sat in the secure conference room deep beneath Seoul. Around the table sat the most powerful people in Earth's government. General Dae-hyun, from Strategic Weapons Command, Ambassador Sora Lim, just returned from the Galactic Council. Fleet Admiral Kyungmin, Intelligence Director Woo Jin Chae. "Tell me this isn't real," President Eun-ji said quietly. She was 52 years old and had led Earth for 6 years. In that time, she had navigated trade disputes, territorial negotiations, and a dozen smaller crises, but nothing like this. "It's real, Madam President," Admiral Kyungmin said. "All of it. 300 civilians dead. An unprovoked attack. They murdered children." Ambassador Sora looked sick. She had just come from the Galactic Council, where other species were calling for calm. "The Council wants us to be patient. They say we should allow a neutral investigation, follow proper diplomatic channels." "How long would that take?" President Eun-ji asked. "Years, possibly." The Council moved slowly. "Years." The President's voice was flat. "While the Vrelith are free to attack someone else." General Dae-hyun spoke up. He was a big man with cold eyes. "We have options, Madam President. Military options. Endotry. With crews. Endotry. I want to hear them all." Intelligence Director Woo Jin pulled up a star map. "We've located the Vrelith homeworld. It's called Vrelos Prime. Population approximately 4.2 billion. It's their main world, the center of their civilization." "Go on," President Eun-ji said. "We could launch a targeted strike against their military installations, take out their fleet, cripple their ability to attack anyone else." Admiral Kyungmin shook her head. "That's not enough. The Vrelith didn't target our military. They slaughtered civilians. If we only hit military targets, we look weak. Every other species out there will see that you can murder humans and get away with it. What are you suggesting, Admiral? President Unji asked, though she already knew. Total response. We make an example that no one will ever forget. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she meant. Sora broke the silence first. You're talking about destroying their homeworld. Killing billions. Truth. Yes. That's genocide. That's survival, Kyungmin said coldly. The galaxy is watching us. They want to see how humanity responds when our civilians are massacred. If we respond with proportional force, we invite future attacks. But if we respond with absolute force, no one will dare touch us again. President Unji closed her eyes. General Daehyun. Tell me about Stellar Lance. General Daehyun. General Daehyun. The Stellar Lance Protocol was Earth's deepest secret. A weapons system developed, but never used. General Daehyun explained it simply. Relativistic, kinetic impactors. We accelerate massive projectiles to 90% light speed. When they hit, each one releases energy equivalent to a small star. There's no defense against them. No way to intercept. How many would we need? For a planet the size of Vrelos Prime? 24 strikes. Targeting major population centers. The planet would be rendered lifeless within hours. President Yoonji felt the weight of history pressing down on her. This decision would define humanity for centuries. Ambassador Sora. What happens if we do nothing? Sora hesitated. Honestly? The Vrelith might attack again. Other species might see us as weak. Our frontier colonies would be vulnerable. And if we destroy Vrelos Prime, some species will condemn us. Others will fear us. But no one will attack our civilians again. The president stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city of Seoul spread out below. Millions of people living their lives. People who trusted her to keep them safe. I need to address Earth. Schedule a broadcast for this evening. That night, 3 billion people watched President Unji speak. She stood alone behind a simple podium. No fancy backdrop. No music. Just a woman delivering news that would shake the world. Citizens of Earth. She began. 3 weeks ago, Station Sejong was attacked. 300 of our people were murdered by an alien species called the Vrelith. They showed no mercy. They distinguished no difference between military personnel and children. They destroyed everything. She showed them the footage. Some of it, not all. Enough so people understood the horror. The Galactic Council has urged patience. They want investigations and diplomatic talks. But while we talk, the Vrelith are free. Free to attack others. Free to murder more innocents. This, I cannot accept. President Yoonji's voice hardened. I have authorized a military response. We will not rest until justice is served. We will show the galaxy that human life is sacred, that there are consequences for attacking Earth. The speech became known as the No More Declaration. Protests erupted in some cities. Peace groups demanded restraint. But the majority of Earth supported their president. The footage from Station Sejong had been seen by everyone. The sight of children running from crystalline monsters. The sound of Ensign Heiji's dying message. No more. Fleet Admiral Kyung-min began mobilizing forces. Deep in classified shipyards, crews prepared 12 stealth vessels. These ships were invisible to most sensors, using technology that bent light and absorbed energy signatures. General Daehyun oversaw the loading of stellar lance weapons. Each impactor was massive, the size of a building. Each one carried enough destructive force to level a continent. Intelligence Director Woojin's teams tracked the Vrelith. They intercepted communications, mapped fleet positions, and confirmed that Vrelos Prime was indeed their homeworld. The Vrelith seemed unconcerned, confident that the primitive humans posed no threat. Ambassador Sora returned to the Galactic Council one last time. The other species demanded to know Earth's intentions. Some offered to mediate. Others warned that escalation would destabilize the entire sector. Sora stood before them, representing all of humanity. The Vrelith committed an atrocity. They murdered 300 civilians without cause, without warning, without mercy. Earth will respond. But surely, said one alien ambassador, surely you understand that violence breeds violence. We understand perfectly, Sora replied. Which is why our response must be absolute. You've taught us that the galaxy respects power, not justice. We have learned that lesson. What are you saying? I'm saying that any species which murders human civilians will face extinction. Not proportional response. Not diplomatic pressure. Extinction. The council erupted in chaos. Some species called Earth barbaric. Others remained silent, calculating. A few, who had suffered under Vrelith raids but lacked the power to respond, quietly thanked Sora in private. Earth didn't care what the council thought. The decision was made. President Unji met with her military commanders in the war room. Maps showed the route to Vrelos Prime. Intelligence reports detailed the planet's defenses. It was heavily defended, but the defenses were designed to stop conventional attacks, not relativistic weapons. How long until we're ready? She asked. The fleet can launch in 48 hours, Admiral Kyungmin said. And once launched, how long until impact? Travel time is 9 days. The impactors will take 3 more days to reach target after launch. 12 days, total. 12 days. In 12 days, 4.2 billion beings would be dead. President Yunji felt the magnitude of it. But she also remembered the footage. Children screaming. Civilians begging for mercy. Do it, she said. Launch Operation Righteous Fury. The stealth fleet departed from a secret base beyond Mars. No fanfare. No ceremonies. Just 12 ships slipping into faster-than-light travel, carrying death. On Earth, people watched the news obsessively. Some felt righteous anger. Others felt sick about what was coming. Religious leaders debated the morality. Philosophers wrote essays, but the fleet had already launched. President Yunji didn't sleep well anymore. She walked the halls of her residence at night, thinking about the children on Vrelos Prime. Did they play like human children? Did they have dreams and hopes? But then she thought about Hanul and Bora, Administrator Yuna's children. Were they even still alive? Or had they died terrified and alone? Admiral Kyungmin felt no such doubts. She had served Earth for 40 years. She had seen war before, had made hard decisions. This was simply another decision. A necessary one. The Vrelith had shown humanity what they were. Now, humanity would show them what happens when you wake the sleeping giant. General Daehyun monitored the weapons systems obsessively. The stellar lance had to work perfectly. This was humanity's statement to the galaxy. It had to be absolute. Ambassador Sora refused to speak to reporters. She had delivered Earth's message to the Council. Now she waited, like everyone else, to see what would happen. The galaxy held its breath. Some species prepared for war, thinking Earth's action might start a larger conflict. Others simply watched, waiting to see if humanity would really do it. On Vrelos Prime, the Vrelith went about their lives, unaware that death was coming. Their military remained deployed in their territory, expecting possible human retaliation against military targets. They never imagined that humanity would strike at their heart. In a supply cache on Station Sejong's wreckage, 2 children survived on emergency rations, waiting for rescue that hadn't come. They had been alone for weeks now, but they stayed hidden, like their mother had told them. The clock counted down. 12 days until impact. 12 days until the galaxy learned what humanity was truly capable of. Captain Minsuk An watched Vrelos Prime grow larger on his view screen. The stealth ship Silent Retribution hung in space, invisible to every sensor the Vrelith possessed. Around him, 11 other ships waited in perfect silence. 3 days until the impactors arrive. Weapons Officer Nari Kwan reported quietly. She had barely spoken during the 9-day journey. None of them had. The weight of what they were about to do pressed down on everyone. Minsok studied the planet below. It was beautiful in its own way. Crystal cities caught the light of the system's sun, reflecting it in brilliant colors. He could see weather patterns in the atmosphere, clouds, oceans, life. 4.2 billion lives. Navigator Sungho Ryu broke the silence. Captain, long-range scans show the Vrelith military is still deployed away from the homeworld. They're guarding their outer territories. They think we'll strike there, Minsok said. They don't believe we'd attack civilians. No, Nari said softly. No species would. Except us. No species would. 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 Minsok looked at her. Nari was 34 years old. She had a husband and 2 sons waiting for her on Earth. After this mission, she would go home and hug them. She would never tell them what she had done. Are you having doubts, weapons officer? Nari met his eyes. Every moment, sir. But I remember. Station Sejong. I remember what they did to our people. So I'll push the button when ordered. The crew of Silent Retribution had all watched the footage. They had seen the massacre. Some of them had known people who died on Station Sejong. Personal friends. Family members. That knowledge made this easier, but not easy. 3 days passed slowly. The stealth ships maintained their positions, watching Vrelos Prime. Minseok observed the planet through high-powered sensors. He saw ships coming and going, trade vessels, passenger transports, civilian traffic, normal life. He saw what looked like schools, residential areas, parks where young Vrelith played. The crystalline beings moved through their cities, going to work, coming home, living their lives. They had no idea what was coming. Captain, Sungho said on the 2nd day. I'm reading broadcasts from the planet. Should I translate? Go ahead. Sungho worked his console. News broadcasts, entertainment programs. One appears to be a sporting event. They're cheering for something. Minsok closed his eyes. These were people. Different from humans. Yes. Crystalline instead of flesh. But people nonetheless. They had culture, entertainment, sports. They had lives. And their military had slaughtered 300 humans without mercy. Sir, incoming communication from Earth, the communications officer reported. It's Fleet Admiral Kyungmin. The Admiral's face appeared on screen. She looked tired. Captain On. Status report. We're in position, Admiral. The impactors will arrive in 28 hours. The Galactic Council is trying to reach Earth. They're begging us to stop. Some species are threatening military action if we proceed. Minsok waited. This was the moment when Earth might recall them. When someone might decide that genocide was too high a price. President Unji has reviewed their messages, Admiral Kyungmin continued. Her response is clear. We proceed. Operation Righteous Fury continues as planned. Understood, Admiral. Captain, I know what you're feeling. What your crew is feeling. This is the hardest thing Earth has ever asked of you. We'll complete the mission, Admiral. I know you will. May whatever gods exist forgive us all. The transmission ended. Nari spoke without looking up from her console. The gods won't forgive this, Captain. But maybe the children of Station Sejong will. 28 hours later, the impactors arrived. They had been launched 3 days earlier, accelerated to 90% light speed. Now, they screamed through space, faster than anything should move. Impactors on final approach, Nari reported. Her voice was steady now. Professional. 18 minutes to impact. Minseok activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships. This is Captain On. In 18 minutes, we will complete our mission. What we do today will haunt us forever. But it will also ensure that no human colony ever suffers what Station Sejong suffered. Remember the 300. Remember why we're here. On Vrelos Prime, life continued normally. Then, with only minutes to spare, their early warning systems detected something. 24 objects moving impossibly fast. Too fast to intercept. Panic spread across the planet. Emergency broadcasts went out. People tried to evacuate, rushing to spaceports. Ships launched frantically. But there was no time. There had never been time. Min Seok watched the chaos unfold on his sensors. He saw thousands of ships trying to escape. Most of them were civilian transports, packed with families, desperate to survive. Some would make it. Not many, but some. 14 minutes, Nari said. The Vrelith government broadcast a message. It was transmitted on all frequencies, aimed at Earth. Minsok had it translated. Humans of Earth, we acknowledge our error. The attack on Station Sejong was unauthorized. We offer reparations, peace negotiations, anything you demand. Please, there are billions of civilians here. Children, please. Minsok thought about Commander Do-hyun trying to negotiate, begging for the lives of his people. The Vrelith had answered with weapons fire. Don't respond, he told his communications officer. 10 minutes, Nari said. Her hands were shaking now. Sung-ho was crying silently at his navigation console. Others on the bridge stood frozen, watching the countdown. Minsok forced himself to watch the planet. This was his responsibility. He wouldn't look away. 5 minutes. More ships launched from Vrelos Prime. The evacuation was chaotic, disorganized. Ships crashed into each other in the rush to escape. Millions were fleeing, but billions remained, unable to get to ships in time. 2 minutes. The Vrelith military ships were racing back toward their homeworld. But they were too far away. They fired their weapons at the approaching impactors, but the projectiles were moving too fast. The weapons fire simply passed through empty space, where the impactors had been microseconds before. 1 minute. Nari's console showed the impact points. Major cities across Vrelos Prime. Population centers. Cultural hubs. Each impactor would release energy beyond imagining. 30 seconds. Minsok heard someone praying behind him. He didn't stop them. This was a moment that called for prayer. 10 seconds. The bridge fell silent, except for the quiet countdown from Nari's console. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Impact. The first impactor struck a crystal city on the northern continent. At 90% light speed, it punched through the atmosphere in a fraction of a second. When it hit the ground, it released the energy of a small star. The city simply ceased to exist. Everything within 200 kilometers vaporized instantly. The shockwave expanded outward at supersonic speeds. Mountains shattered. Seas boiled. Then, the other 23 impactors hit. Vrelos Prime's crust cracked. Seismic waves rippled across the planet, each one triggering earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Whole continents shattered. The oceans burst into steam. The atmosphere ignited in a global firestorm. Within 2 hours, every living thing on Vrelos Prime was dead. Within 4 hours, the planet was molten rock, its surface temperature hot enough to melt steel. Minsok watched it all. He forced himself to watch. His crew watched too. They needed to see what they had done. Needed to carry that weight. Target destroyed, Nari reported in a whisper. 4.2 billion confirmed casualties. The Vrelith ships that had been racing home stopped. They simply stopped moving, hanging in space as they watched their homeworld die. Some tried to continue the attack on the human fleet, firing blindly. The stealth ships destroyed them easily. Most just drifted, their crews overwhelmed by what had happened. Minsok opened a channel to the surviving Vrelith ships. This is Captain Minsok An, of the Earth Defense Force. Your homeworld is gone. Your civilization is broken. This is what happens when you attack human civilians. Tell the galaxy what you witnessed here. Tell them what Earth is capable of." He closed the channel. There was nothing more to say. The stealth fleet remained in orbit for another day, documenting the destruction. They needed proof of what had happened. Evidence that the mission was complete. Sungho couldn't stop crying. Nari sat at her console, staring at her hands. These hands had pressed the buttons that killed billions. Other crew members were sick, throwing up in bathrooms. Some just sat in silence. Minsok gathered his officers in the briefing room that night. They looked broken. Lost. "I know what you're feeling," he said quietly. "The guilt. The horror. It won't go away. You'll carry this for the rest of your lives. How do we live with this?" Nari asked. "How do we go home and pretend to be normal people? I don't know. But we remember why we did it. We remember Station Sejong. We remember that the Vrelith would have done this again and again if we hadn't stopped them." "Does that make it right?" Sungho asked. "No," Minsok said honestly. "Nothing makes this right. But it was necessary. Earth needed to send a message. That message has been sent." They sat in silence for a long time. Outside the ship, the remains of Vrelos Prime glowed red in the darkness. "Set course for Earth," Minsok finally ordered. "Let's go home." The journey back took 9 days. The crew barely spoke. They performed their duties mechanically, going through the motions. At night, they had nightmares. The counselors on board did what they could, but there was no counseling away what they had witnessed. News of the destruction reached Earth first. President Yoonji addressed the world again. "Operation Righteous Fury is complete. The Vrelith homeworld has been destroyed. Justice has been served. Let the galaxy understand. Humanity protects its own." Some people celebrated. Others protested. But most just felt numb. They had gotten their revenge, but the price was almost too high to bear. When the stealth fleet finally reached Earth orbit, they were greeted as heroes. Parades were planned. Medals were prepared. But Captain Minseok and his crew declined all ceremonies. They just wanted to go home, to hold their families, to try to remember what it felt like to be normal human beings. Nari went home to her husband and sons. She hugged them tight and cried. They asked her what was wrong. She told them she loved them and would never let anything hurt them. She didn't tell them what she had done to ensure that promise. The galaxy would remember this day. The day humanity showed what it was truly capable of. The day Earth burned a world. The galaxy changed overnight. News of Vrelos Prime's destruction spread through every spacefaring civilization. Some species called emergency council meetings. Others locked down their borders. Everyone was afraid. Ambassador Sora stood before the Galactic Council 1 week after the planet's destruction. The chamber was packed. Every species had sent representatives. They wanted to condemn Earth, to punish humanity for what many called the greatest atrocity in galactic history. "You murdered 4.2 billion beings," the council speaker said. "Civilians. Children. You didn't even give them a chance to surrender." Sora met their eyes calmly. "The Vrelith murdered 300 of our people. They gave them no chance to surrender. They hunted our children through corridors and killed them without mercy. What we did was ensure that never happens again. But the scale was necessary. Anything less, and the galaxy would have seen humanity as weak. You would have seen that you could attack our civilians and face only minor consequences. Now, you know the truth. We should expel Earth from the Council," one ambassador suggested. Others murmured agreement. Sora smiled coldly. "Go ahead. Expel us. We don't need you. Earth has proven it can stand alone." The Council did vote to censure Earth. They passed resolutions condemning the destruction. They called for trials and reparations. But everyone noticed that not one species offered to enforce these demands. Not one fleet moved to punish humanity. Because they were all afraid. 3 species quietly sent messages to Earth asking for defense treaties. 2 more requested technology exchanges. Others simply went silent, calculating their positions in this new galaxy where humanity had shown its teeth. On Earth, the rescue mission to Station Sejong launched. Jamin Park led a team of specialists equipped to search through wreckage and recover remains. They knew the chances of finding survivors after 7 weeks were almost zero, but they had to try. Jamin's ship approached the ruined station slowly. The structure was shattered, torn apart by Vrelith weapons. Whole sections had been blasted into space. The mining colony below was a wasteland of glass, where the ground had been superheated by orbital bombardment. Life support to the team, Jamin ordered. We're going in. They moved through the wreckage in spacesuits, searching deck by deck. They found bodies. So many bodies. Frozen, desiccated, but still recognizable. Each one was documented, tagged, prepared for return to Earth. Jamin found Commander Do-hyun in the control room, still at his post. Lieutenant Ji-won, in a corridor. Her weapon, empty beside her. Dr. Mina, in a sealed room. Engineer Taejun in the docking bay, his body shielding the area where children had escaped. They found Administrator Yuna near a shelter entrance. Medical Officer Junho sprawled across a child's bed, having died protecting someone else. Ensign Hiji at the communications console, her hand still on the controls. Every body told a story of courage and sacrifice. On the 4th day of searching, Jamin's team reached the core sections. They were working through a damaged area when one of his specialists stopped. "Sir, I'm getting a reading. Something warm." "What? That's impossible." "I know, sir. But the scanner doesn't lie." They followed the reading to a supply cache. It was small, easily overlooked. Jamin pried open the door and froze. 2 children huddled inside, barely conscious. A girl about 8 years old and a younger girl, maybe 6. They were barely alive, dehydrated and starving. But alive. "Medical team!" Jamin shouted. "We have survivors! Children!" The medics rushed over, beginning treatment immediately. Jamin gently lifted the older girl, carrying her to the ship. She opened her eyes briefly. "Mama?" she whispered. "We've got you," Jamin said, his voice breaking. "You're safe now." The younger girl clutched a stuffed toy, something she had kept with her through 7 weeks of terror. The news that survivors had been found electrified Earth. 2 children had endured the impossible, surviving in a tiny cache while death surrounded them. Hanul and Borasong became instant celebrities, symbols of human endurance. President Unji visited them in the hospital. The girls were recovering slowly, still traumatized by what they had witnessed. Hanul remembered her mother pushing them into the cache, remembered her last words. "Your mother was a hero," President Unji told them gently. "She saved you because she loved you more than anything." "Is she coming?" Hanul asked. She was old enough to understand, but still hoped. President Unji had to tell them the truth. Their mother was dead. Their father, who had been on the mining colony surface, was also gone. They were orphans. But they would not be alone. President Unji personally arranged for their care. Commander Do-hyun's family on Earth had lost him in the attack. They offered to adopt Hanul and Bora, to give them a home. The girls would be raised by people who understood what they had lost. As Hanul and Bora recovered, Earth continued to change. New military bases appeared throughout human space. Small frontier stations like Station Sejong were reinforced with massive defensive platforms. Colonies that once had minimal protection now hosted full military fleets. Fleet Admiral Kyungmin announced a new doctrine. Human civilians would never again be vulnerable. Every colony, every station, every human outpost would be defended by overwhelming force. "We paid for peace with the blood of Vrelos Prime," she said in a speech to the defense forces. "That price was terrible. But it bought us security. Now we ensure that security lasts." Ships patrolled constantly. Early warning systems watched for threats. And on Earth, in deep secret facilities, new weapons were designed, even more powerful than the stellar lance. Just in case. Xenopolitical analyst Soo-hyun Go published her report 6 months after the destruction. It was classified, but key sections leaked to the public. Her conclusions were stark. Humanity had fundamentally changed its position in the galaxy. Before Vrelos Prime, humans were seen as cautiously friendly. New kids on the galactic block. After Vrelos Prime, humanity was feared. Attack proposals against human interests had dropped to 0. Not reduced, eliminated completely. No species dared even plan aggression against Earth's colonies. The stellar lance had made humanity untouchable. Rome. Trade increased. Species that once ignored Earth now sought partnerships. Some did it out of genuine interest. Others did it because they were afraid of being on humanity's bad side. We have become the monsters we feared, Soo-hyun wrote. But in doing so, we have made our people safe. Whether that trade was worth it, history will decide. The surviving Vrelith refugees scattered across the galaxy. Only a few 100,000 had escaped their homeworld's destruction. Some species gave them shelter. Others turned them away. The once proud civilization was reduced to beggars. One group of Vrelith approached Earth, asking for forgiveness. They claimed the attack on Station Sejong had been unauthorized. The action of rogue military commanders. President Unji met with them personally. Whether it was authorized or not doesn't matter, she told them. It happened. And now your world is gone. That's the price your people paid. Will you kill us too? One Vrelith asked. We who had nothing to do with the attack? No, President Unji said. We're not monsters. We don't kill without cause. But you will live, knowing what your civilization did, and knowing what it cost. A memorial was built on Earth. A black wall with 300 names. Every person who died on Station Sejong and in the mining colony, citizens came to touch the names, to leave flowers, to remember. Hanul and Bora attended the memorial dedication. They were 9 and 7 now, living with their adopted family. The ceremony was hard for them, bringing back memories they tried to forget. President Unji spoke at the dedication. They were fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters, friends and colleagues. They went to the frontier to build something new, to push humanity forward. They believed in peace. She paused, looking at the wall of names. That peace was shattered, but in their memory, we have built something stronger. A galaxy where human life is sacred, where attacking our civilians means destruction so complete that no one will dare try. The crowd was silent. Some people cried. Others stood with heads bowed. We cannot bring them back, President Unji continued. But we can ensure they did not die in vain. Every human who lives safely in space, every colony that grows without fear, that is their legacy. At the bottom of the memorial wall, an inscription was carved in letters that caught the light. In memory of the 300 souls of Station Sejong. They came in peace. They were answered with violence. We answered with certainty. Never again will humanity's innocence die defenseless among the stars. A year after the destruction, human space had transformed. Where Station Sejong once stood, a massive military citadel now orbited New Busan. It bristled with weapons. Hundreds of ships patrolled nearby space. The mining colony below had been rebuilt, and people were returning. But now, they came with protection. Similar citadels were built throughout human territory. 50 in the first year, with plans for 100 more. Each one was capable of defending multiple systems. Each one carried stellar lance weapons. The message was clear. Come in peace, and humanity would be your friend. Come in war, and humanity would erase you from existence. Other species took notice. The galactic peace was the most stable it had been in centuries. Not because of diplomacy or mutual understanding, because everyone was afraid of the sleeping giant that had shown it could wake up and burn worlds. Hanul and Bora grew up in this new reality. Their adopted family loved them, gave them everything they needed. But the girls remembered. They remembered their mother's sacrifice, remembered hiding in darkness for 7 weeks, remembered the sound of Vrelith weapons. On the 10th anniversary of the attack, Haenel was 18. She enlisted in the Earth Defense Force. When asked why, she said simply, "So no other children have to hide the way I did." Bora, at 16, was studying xenobiology. She wanted to understand alien species. "Someone has to build bridges," she said. "Someone has to try for peace." Even after everything that happened, President Unji, now in her 60s, met with them privately. "You both honor your mother's memory, in the Tapturing," she told them. "One by ensuring our strength, the other by reaching for understanding. That's the balance humanity needs." End quote. The galaxy settled into an uncomfortable peace. Human ships patrolled the frontier. Trade flourished. Scientific exchanges continued. But everyone remembered Vrelos Prime. Everyone knew what humanity was capable of. Sometimes, in the darkest hours, President Unji wondered if they had done the right thing. 4.2 billion lives for 300. The math was horrifying. But when she thought about other human colonies growing safely, about children playing without fear, she told herself it had been necessary. Admiral Kyungmin never questioned the decision. To her, it was simple mathematics. Better that billions of aliens die than even one more human. She slept well at night, knowing humanity was secure. Captain Minseok, who had commanded the strike, retired from service. He moved to a quiet farm and tried to forget. But he never could. Some nights, he dreamed of crystal cities burning. He woke in cold sweat, seeing the faces of the crew who had pushed the buttons with him. In the end, humanity had bought peace with blood. The galaxy was safer for humans, but at a cost that would haunt them for generations. They had become what they needed to be to survive. Strong, feared, capable of absolute violence. And on the memorial wall, 300 names remained etched in stone. A reminder of why Earth had become what it was. A reminder that human life was precious. A reminder that those who forgot that lesson would face annihilation. The galaxy had learned. Humanity protected its own. And the price of harming human civilians was the complete destruction of your world. This was the new reality. Humanity had joined the galactic community not as friends or as equals, but as the species no one dared cross. Peace through overwhelming deterrence. Safety through the threat of absolute destruction. Whether this made humanity better or worse than what they had fought, history would judge. But for now, human colonies thrived. Human families grew. Human children played under alien stars without fear. And above them, warships patrolled constantly, carrying weapons that could crack planets. A reminder to all who watched. Humanity would do it again, if necessary. Without hesitation. Without mercy. The sleeping giant was awake. And it would never sleep again.